Donald Trump and all those around him are lying about his health again, trying to confuse the American public about the results of an MRI, confusing them with the results of a cognitive test, and then having the pit bull and propagandist of a press secretary in Carolyn Levitt try to take on the New York Times and its reporter, Katie Rogers, to try to distract from the point that Donald Trump said that he took a cognitive test recently, quote unquote, aced it, but they released the MRI of his internal organs and body, but he refuses to release the cognitive test, which begs the question, why, sir, at 79 during a routine examination, are you being compelled to or volunteered to take a cognitive test? What was the cognitive test and what were the results? I have a clip of Donald Trump debating, I guess that's the right word, insulting would be another word, the assembled press on Air Force One about his cognitive test. And if it's close to the dementia test that he took, thinking it was an IQ test a couple of years ago, where he identified cat, cup, dog, camera, whatever it was, I think we're in deep trouble. Again, it's another example, as we lead off on Tuesday morning on Legal AF, of Donald Trump and those around him to try to insult the intelligence and the cognitive capabilities of the American people. You're on Legal AF. I'm Michael Popok. I'm traveling, but these are stories that have got to be covered here on Legal AF. All right. A few days ago, Katie Rogers, a very, very well-respected reporter for the New York Times, the way she has in covering presidents before, said that in her review of the scheduling, daily scheduling, and when this president called lid on his day, ending his day, it appeared that, no surprise, at 79, pushing 80, that he was starting to slow down in office as he was aging in office and aging in place. And, there's been reports from inside the house, so to speak, that he is not getting up before and not hitting his office until about noon, and he's ending his day at 5. And then he plays an inordinate amount of golf, as we know, because the bill to the taxpayers to let him play golf is going to approach $300 million. So it begs the question, right? Are they lightening up on his schedule because he's exhausted? We see it. We see a physically exhausted person, an intellectually gassed and spent person. We know he's already morally depraved and morally bankrupt. We see the rest. It would be foolish, especially coming off the Joe Biden administration, for reporters to ignore the obvious, which is we've got the second oldest president following the first oldest president in office, and what it means for his day-to-day flagging energy. And the fact that when he says things out loud, a lot of times the sentences don't make sense, that there doesn't seem to be an executive function in the executive branch. And she legitimately called it. So she wrote the article in the New York Times. We all read it. Right after it, Donald Trump went cuckoo crazy and started talking about how ugly Katie Rogers is inside and out. A series of misogynistic attacks that he makes. He tells one reporter a week or so ago to quiet piggy, calling her a piggy. Every time he is disrespectful or condescending to a reporter, inevitably, invariably, it's a woman on the other end. I'm going to show you a clip of his comments about having taken a cognitive test, because when he posted his social media, he said that he had an MRI. He also took a cognitive test. Nobody asked him that, by the way. He just volunteered it. Then we get the report from his personal doctor, who works at Walter Reed, who said, his physical health is in very good shape for his age, and that his MRI showed normal organ activity or whatever it is. No mention of the cognitive test.
They asked about my MRI. MRIs are very.
Governor Walz asked you to release the MRI records.
Will you tell us what it was
Governor
for?
Walz? You mean the incompetent Governor Walz? So if they want to release it, it's okay with me to release it. It's perfect.
What was the reason?
It's like my phone call where I got impeached. It's absolutely perfect. So if you want to hear about it, or if you want to release it, do you want to have it released?
Yes,
News Nation, failing News Nation.
No, sir, we're not failing.
News Nation is doing lousy, by the way. But if you want to have it released, I'll release it.
Yes, please. Can you tell us
Absolutely.
what they were looking at?
For what, releasing?
No. know. What part of your body was the MRI looking at?
I have no idea. It was just an MRI. What part of the body? It wasn't the brain because I took a cognitive test and I aced it. I got a perfect mark, which you would be incapable of doing. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you,
too.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
So let's break this down. Let's start with Carolyn Levitt going after the press and Katie Rogers again because she had the temerity to question whether this president was up to the job of finishing his job and why he's taking off during the day so often, why he's not working a full day. Oh, and you never questioned Biden, she said. You went crazy on Joe, you never questioned when Joe Biden fell down the steps or fell up the steps on Air Force One. Actually, Katie Rogers did question that. She said, oh, and that same reporter is the one that said everything was fine when he fell on the steps and covered for Joe Biden. No. Her reporting was that the White House said that Joe Biden was fine, not that she had independent knowledge of whether she was fine or not. Sometimes I think Carolyn Levitt, who's like 27 years old, barely has read a newspaper, let alone should, be a press secretary, doesn't understand what the role of the press is. They're not there doing an investigative report about why he fell up the stairs. And in later reporting, Katie Rogers has, as reported, also said that Biden's falling and cognitive issues have become worrisome and were increasing, and that people around him were concerned about it. I mean, that's a legitimate article as well. Let's play the clip, though, of Carolyn Levitt right on cue, feigning some sort of theatrical umbrage because her boss has been, his mental capacity or his physical capacity has been challenged. Let's play the clip.
I will point out one fake news story over the weekend before I let you all go from the New York Times that took about 1/3 of the president's daily calendar and his daily schedule and said that he's doing less than he did in his first term, or he might not be fit for the job. That is unequivocally false, and it's deeply unfortunate that this story was written by the same outlet and the same reporter who wrote this. Biden is doing 100% fine after tripping while boarding Air Force One. Oh, same outlet, same reporter who wrote that President Trump is not fit for the job. Are you kidding me? You all see him almost every single day. He is the most accessible president in history. He is taking meetings around the clock. Another one. Biden declared, quote, healthy and vigorous after his first presidential physical. I don't see headlines like that too often about this president. Again, same reporter, same outlet who wrote falsely over the weekend that President Trump is not fit for the job. I can assure you he absolutely is. You all see that with your own eyes on a daily basis, and the president's physician has now given you all 3 detailed reports on the state of the president's health. So with that, I will leave you all and we'll see you tomorrow.
Now, they have conflated 2 issues, the MRI and the cognitive test. See, they want to ignore that Donald Trump said that he took a cognitive test, which begs a series of questions. Why? For what purpose? Was it for dementia? Was it for Alzheimer's? What was the nature of the test? Who conducted the test? What were the test results? Where are the test results? And why haven't they been released among them? Now, when the only one that continues to talk about the test is not Carolyn Levitt and those in his office, it's Donald Trump. So he's on Air Force One in the last 24 hours, and he's got to be insulting and condescending and demeaning to female reporters. Why they take it, I have no idea. They take it because they want the access. I get it. They want to write the piece, and they don't care if they're the target of the abuse. But stop being a human pinata. Stand up for yourself and say, Mr. President, that's inappropriate. It is inappropriate for you to insult me, my intelligence, or my news reporting agency because you don't like our stories. And it's also condescending and demeaning. But they know if they do that, they're going to get bounced, and they're going to lose their credentials, and some judge somewhere is going to say that's okay. So, listen, this is the devil's bargain that they've made. I get it, but that doesn't mean that it's right. Let's go back 2 years, 3 years. Donald Trump bragging about, in his first term or so, his cognitive test that he took, right? Again, he said it was like an IQ test where he got to identify a series of random items over a period of 20, 30, or 40 questions, and then had to recall and remember. Turns out that particular test that he's referring to is a dementia test, not an IQ test, but he bragged about it. Here's, if you don't remember, here's a clip of him bragging about a similar cognitive test that he took a few years ago. Let's play it.
I said to the doctor, it was Dr. Ronnie Jackson, I said, is there some kind of a test, an acuity test? And he said there actually is, and he named it, whatever it might be. And it was 30 or 35 questions. The first questions are very easy. The last questions are much more difficult. Like a memory question, it's like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV. So they say, could you repeat that? So I said, yeah. So it's person, woman, man, camera, TV. Okay, that's very good. If you get it in order, you get extra points. Okay, now he's asking you other questions, and then 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes later, they say, remember the first question? Not the first, but the 10th question? Give us that again. Can you do that again? And you go person, woman, man, camera, TV. If you get it in order, you get extra points. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They say, that's amazing. How did you do that? I do it because I have like a good memory, because I'm cognitively there.
So again, to distract from the fact this is not an IQ test. He didn't say it was an IQ test. Even Donald Trump said it was a cognitive test. Mental cognitive powers and functions. Okay, let's find out how the synapses are firing, shall we? And, he loves, again, he thinks he's the smartest person in the room. He's usually the smartest person by half. And then in order to distract from his failing presidency, from his immorality, his barbarism, his lack of ethics, he starts attacking the women reporters in the room. You're not smart enough to pass the test that I passed. He is literally insufferable. I mean, we should not be suffering him any longer. But I did not want to lose this thread. I've seen now that mainstream media sort of lost the thread. We got the MRI. The other story is that he called Governor Walz a retard. Let's chase that story. Can we ignore that for 1 minute? And we'll come back to that separately. Can we stay on the cognitive testing for a minute? And the fact that the MRI does not fix the problem. This is the problem with mainstream media, right? The Epstein files, and then they allowed Donald Trump to redefine the Epstein files. Oh, they're the files that are with the judges. Oh, they're with grand juries. Oh, they're over here. Oh, they're with the estate. No. We know what the Epstein files are. They're the piles, hundreds of thousands of pages of documents reviewed by the FBI. But you see how he elides over that and conflates terms about what is and is not the Epstein files. Don't let him, and I'm not going to let him, redefine what a cognitive test is. I demand the results of the cognitive test. That's what the next question should be from the press pool. And can I say something just between our audience here? If the reporters who are young women don't feel they can stand up to Donald Trump when they are subjected to misogynistic abuse, then the rest of the press pool and the men in the press pool should be standing up for them. And how about this? How about Carolyn Levitt comes out one day and there's nobody in the White House press room? How about that? Or they all turn their back on her, or they don't take her shit anymore. How about that? Let's try that for a few days. What are they? They're not going to lock the press out. The press is like oxygen to Donald Trump. That's why she brags. You saw it. You saw Carolyn Levitt brag. He gives the most access of any president that's ever been alive. Yeah, he needs it. He wants these micro news cycles. But what if we stood up for ourselves and said, no, it's not the Gulf of America? No, we're not going to let AP be banned from the room. No, we're not going to let them have all these right-wing podcasters in there masquerading as First Amendment journalists and the press. And no, you're not going to attack, and I'm going to give my question to her, the person that you just called Miss Piggy or ugly or you're disgusting or a failing news organization or news entity or you're stupid or your IQ is low. I'm going to pass my question to that person, and I'm going to ask you, Mr. President, not to abuse my colleagues because it's not right and it's beneath your office. Somebody, anybody, stand up for yourselves. You see how the history books are going to be written. You have to be on one side of history or the other. You want to be on the side of the angels, then you come join us here on Legal AF. I'm glad you're here. Hit the free subscribe button. Let's do it all over again tomorrow, folks. I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touches Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.